The other guy that you're going to see, which is my pick to win the Open Championship, I think Rombo's going to win the Open Championship this year. I just have a feeling he's playing really, really good. He's starting to putt the ball with some confidence. I think he's going to have a huge week. Oddly enough, unlike some of the other players out there, the only adjustment he'll make to his bag is I guarantee his Apex UT is going to go on. The club's like 10 years old. That will go on and the 5-wood will come out. Okay, Fully Equipped, episode 294 of the Fully Equipped podcast. It's Open Championship week. Can't say British Open anymore. People get all bent out of shape if you say British Open. So it's the Open Championship week over at Royal Port Rush. That's a tongue twister. Royal Port Rush. Exciting week. Obviously, there's a bunch of storylines. We're going to get into obviously a lot of gear stuff. We had a fun week last week with Rocco over at the Dick's Sporting Goods Open. I got to tell you a couple of stories about spending a week with that guy in our relationship. It's kind of interesting stuff. You guys might find it interesting, but it's always a laugh. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are happening over in Ireland. And we're going to get into a little bit of, we're going to tease out some of the strategy around my What's in the Bag video that comes out on the 19th, I believe. So this podcast will come out in between this and the next episode of Fully Equipped. The What's in the Bag video will be released. And I kind of want to give you I don't want to say a tease because I'm not Tiger Woods, but I kind of want to give you some of the strategy around what I picked and how I picked it. So I'll probably go through the top half of the bag a little bit. And talk about a little bit about the golf ball in a little bit more detail. But let's first tackle some of the stories that are coming out of the Open Championship this week. So obviously, TaylorMade launched their UDI, that Top Gun inspired thingamajiggy. I know a couple of players were testing that. Tommy Fleetwood, I think, was testing it. Here's the thing. And there was that story around players lofting up for drivers. The best way to combat bad weather, for any folks that play up in the Northwest and the Northeast and you play fall golf, one of the greatest ways to combat bad golf is adding loft to a lot of your clubs. The reason being is obviously the elements, moisture on the face, this and that, but also swing speed. You're not swinging it as fast. You need extra help. So one of the best things that you can do, and you're seeing this at Port Rush. I know Titleist had mentioned a few of their players were lofting up their drivers. I know on the Callaway truck, a couple of the guys lofted up their drivers. The basic idea there is it's just more forgiving. It's just easier to get the ball up in the air. It's cold. The elements are against you. Some might say, well, what about spin and launch and all that stuff? You want to be able to keep the ball down. To be honest, in the elements, if you add loft after everything's said and done, a lot of it's still apples to apples. So it just makes it easier to hit the window that you're used to hitting. And it's not really a concern about if it's going to spin too much or this and that, because honestly, you're adjusting for the weather, you're adjusting for the elements. So there is that comparison 1-to-1 by adding loft to your clubs to do that. But at the same time, these are the best players in the world. Trust me, they know how to take loft off a club. They know how to lean shafts. They know how to hit it down. That's not really the issue. But what you are seeing is a lot of guys leaning on the bags that kind of got them there. I know Justin Thomas was messing around with a 1-iron at the Scottish. I'm pretty sure he actually just took a little bit of loft off of his 5-wood, a club that he's comfortable with. It's a little bit more forgiving than a 1-iron. So all the fears that, some of us might have, I grew up in Seattle playing in the Northwest. I know what it's like to play cold. You kind of hit everything, hitting it solid's kind of a tough thing because you got coats and you got, you're changing your setup to try to drive the ball down or hit a certain shot or to hit it straight up in the air to get it into the wind if it's going downwind. You're seeing a lot of players these days lean towards forgiveness. You just are. So like if you take a bag like Joaquin Niemann, my hunch is that, he's not going to take the 5 hybrid out of the bag. I'd be shocked if he kept, he's going to probably keep that in. I don't think you're going to see a lot of players going into 1-irons and 3-irons and 2-irons. I honestly feel for this layout, a lot of the guys are going to stick with the bags that they typically would play just week to week because, you want to be able to make sure that you're building and you're planning for the mishit, because you're going to miss-hit shots more at an Open Championship theoretically than you would at another tournament because of the elements. So that's the kind of the trend that I'm seeing. Now, do I think guys are going to be grabbing 9-woods and stuff? No. But do I think they're going to see a ton of 1-irons in play? Like, if there's 160 players in the field for an arbitrary number, do I think you're going to see 50 or 61 irons? I do not. I think you'll see 10 or 15, maybe, but I don't think you're going to see a ton of them. And I will recap that. I will have a pretty good idea of how many of what and where went into play. I'll have that information Thursday or Friday, and I will reveal that next week on the podcast. The other thing to take into consideration, and this is something I actually posted pictures on my Instagram, and I actually have a text into Bryson right now to find out if he put that 6-degree fairway wood that he got built up that looked like the most insane thing I've ever seen, or that mini driver from Crank. I don't know. I haven't talked to him, but I shot him a text to ask him if that was going to go and play. Really interested to see if those go into play, and if the case, what are they doing out there? I'm really curious to see. So that's kind of the thing that I'm kind of tracking. I know he went back to his old Avoda irons. I think I mentioned that on a show before. They're making some small tweaks to the LA Golf irons that he had that he really likes, but they were just a little too hot. So he's making the adjustments to those to kind of dial those back. But I'm pretty sure the Avoda irons are still in the bag for this week. I do know he has the new wedges in there, the LA Golf wedges in the bag. So he's always an interesting one too. Sorry, I'm scratching my nose a lot. My nose is just, he's always an interesting guy to follow. And I post a lot of Bryson content on my Instagram. One of the reasons why is because he's such an anomaly gear wise, but the strategy and what he's trying to achieve is the same kind of stuff we're trying to achieve, which is trying to build a bag of 14 best friends in your bag. And they all have a job to do, and nobody looks at their bag more that way that I've seen than Bryson. He's got a very specific window he's trying to hit it out of for launch and spin and curve. And he kind of won't settle on anything until it curves exactly the way that he wants it to curve, which in his case, he's trying to hook everything or draw everything. The only real club that he ever really tries to hit a cut with, that he wants to have a cut on demand, would be his driver, but he doesn't hit it that often. So at a baseline level, the clubs that he has, he's trying to swing on a path that would say, I think the numbers are, I think if you're talking face to path, I think it's 1.5 closed and like 3 out, for argument's sake, to hit the draw that he wants at high speeds with spin and all that kind of fun stuff. So he's always a fun guy to watch, especially at a tournament like the Open Championship, because the elements are going to affect his ball more so than maybe some other venues he plays. So I'm always curious to see what he does. So I will find out, and I will post on social if I find out that those went into play. The other guy that you're going to see, which is my pick to win the Open Championship, I think Rombo's going to win the Open Championship this year. I just have a feeling he's playing really, really good. He's starting to putt the ball with some confidence. I think he's going to have a huge week. Oddly enough, unlike some of the other players out there, the only adjustment he'll make to his bag is I guarantee his Apex UT is going to go on. The club's like 10 years old. That will go on, and the 5 wood will come out. That's typically what he does at the Open Championship. And to be honest, it's usually the only tournament that's guaranteed for that switch to happen. It's an older one, and I remember when he did the testing for the UT, he was in a bag 4-through pitching wedge of the TCB. And when he first started with us, he had we called it an X21 diamond head, which was a utility iron that I don't want to say they modeled off of the old TaylorMade UDI, but it was kind of in the same ballpark. Didn't have a lot of bounce on it, and he used that as his 3-iron for a long time. But he wanted an iron that he could get a little bit more out of. So what they did, oh, my phone's chirping at me, sorry. So what he ended up doing is going to ECPC and testing some utility irons, and they literally brought out like every iteration of what they've kind of had for the last 3 or 4 cycles. And the Apex UT that he picked, I believe it's a 2014 or 15 Apex UT. The reason he liked it so much is because of the weighting where the CG is on that particular club. It's kind of has a cult following because it's fast as hell, but where the CG has got that weight on the bottom, it's really easy to get that one up with some ball speed, and it retains spin really, really well. But the other thing about it is because of the shape of the head and the closure rate, it's really easy to hit down. So north to south, that's a really, really good utility iron. If you see some of the platforms that they have now, like if I'm going to talk about the most current UT that they have on the market, which is that one from 2023, very shallow profile. It's fast. It's very, very fast. But the shape of the head I was never a huge fan of. I always felt like, like Strixon, for example, makes a beautiful utility iron because it's a bigger platform. It's not so big that it doesn't make sense in your set. But those irons need to really be effective north to south. You got to be able to drive it down and you got to be able to hit it straight up in the air. And not all of them are created that way. So the one that I found, this last one, this 23 UT that Callaway came out with, I had a really hard time keeping it down. It wanted to get up in the air, but to hit it down, and tour players can make anything go down, but for a schmuck like me, I need the profile of the iron has to kind of help me. And I had a hard time keeping that one down. I could hit it straight up in the air and it was fast, but getting it down was hard. And when I did get it down, it had no spin on it. And you need spin to shape it and do what you want to do. So anyway, as it relates to the Open Championship, those are some of the switches that you're seeing. I know Vokey did some adjustments to some lobbers out there. You might see in some of the notes, like on WRX or what Brian Barath might do, or even Jack Hirsch on our platform might do. There were some changes to some wedges, and you're going to see a lot of players buffing out the ribbons on a lot of the wedges. And what the ribbon are the angles. So like if you hold up a T grind, for example, it'll have some right angles to it, even on the T grind. Like if you look at an A plus grind, it has all of that stuff carved out. But in this case, you're going to see a lot of guys smoothing some of the edges, and all that does is just gets it through the ground faster. You can really hit some nippers that way. But those those angles do have value when you get on softer conditions. So some of that's happening out there. But to be honest, guys, and I mentioned this on the last show, when it comes to the Open Championship and modern equipment, you don't see a lot of the wholesale gear changes that you would find maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, because these guys are so dialed in the strategy around what the reps are doing and what the guys are doing. Their bags are pretty cooked and kind of prepared already when they show up. So I used to love looking at all the coverage around equipment at the Open and, going to WRX and looking to see what kind of pictures Greg took to see what kind of switches are happening. The pictures kind of remain the same. They just kind of stay the same. Where you would want to go see pictures now for this week specifically, SMS on tour. John White's a good friend of mine from the UK. They have a website now. So they have a lot of the pictures from last week and this week on that site. Always a great place to go if you're if there's a big tournament overseas where a lot of the big names are going. John White's usually the guy that gets those pictures. So go to SMS on tour to go see the pictures. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. He takes great pictures and they're very detailed. So great place to go see what's happening over at Portrush or last week at Renaissance. So if you want my pick for the Open Championship, my dark horse is Fleetwood, as he is always, and Rombo is going to win his third major. It's just going to happen. He's trending. So Rombo, congratulations. Pretty sure you're going to win your third major, and I can't wait to see you in Chicago to congratulate you. Okay, and I did want to take a moment to interrupt this show to bring you attention. Something we're very proud of is our T-commerce. If you want a logoed, fully equipped golf.com logoed merchandise from Grayson, G4, multiple companies. If you want the cool stuff with the fully equipped logo, go to our T-commerce section of the site. A lot of cool stuff in there. Obviously, I don't have any of it on right now. I just didn't have time to put all that stuff on, but there's some cool logoed stuff in there, and I'm working tirelessly to liven it up even more than it already is. So make sure you guys check that out if you want all the fully equipped golf.com branded logo, gear. T-commerce is where you'd find it. Let's get back to the show. Okay, so the Dick's Sporting Goods Open. So this is why, let me break down the media, how this works for golf.com and, going forward. So when I was at Callaway is a media partner of the PGA Tour. So my rights to film and do stuff at a PGA Tour event were there because it's a relationship. It's a they would call it paid media, which is great. All the OEMs do it. It's amazing. So my job out on tour was to create content, video content specifically, that I could capture on the truck or on the range with our players. And we could use those assets for Callaway Golf's Instagram and all their handles. I couldn't use it for my own platform for the most part, but I could use it for Callaway. The golf.com job is different. Golf.com is an independent media source, and we don't have the similar relationship that we did with Callaway. So I can't film and do video for the most part on the PGA Tour working for golf.com, which is why I don't really typically go out to the tour events, PJ Tour events as much anymore, because I can go out there, I can take pictures and I can report, but I can't do the level of content that I was doing at Callaway. I can on Live, which is great because Live is kind of open kimono. I can go out there, go crazy. That's why you see so many videos of me and Bryson and Rombo and, Joaquin Neiman and whoever else. And on top of that, the majors, US Open, PGA Championship, I have the similar rates that I would at Live. Like I can go on course, I can film stuff. It's amazing. And for my function, like kind of where I sit in the gear ecosystem, it's kind of what you expect from me is to get, I'm kind of become the inside baseball guy, because my relationships with the players, and I'm grateful for that. And I like to be able to tell those stories and be able to share that interaction with the players, one, but two, it's fun to look at a video of a club when it's spinning around and I can talk over the top of a video and explain what's going on. Like that's always awesome. Can't really do that on the PGA Tour as it sits right now. We're working on that, and going to Dick's last week was kind of a step in the right direction, which is unbelievable. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to the PGA Tour. It's a humongous entity. It's been around for a long time. They have big media rights deals, so it's not as easy as just letting Johnny Wunder in there to go do his thing, and nor do I expect that. They were nice enough to kind of give me a shot to go to the Dick's. It sounds so funny. To the Dick's Sporting Good Open. And the nice thing is it's 4 hours from Toronto drive. I could drive it. I didn't have to get on an airplane. For those of you that don't know, I run Rocco Mediate's social media. I started that Instagram for him because he's stubborn and his old Instagram page sucked. And I'm like, why don't you create a page that's actually fun to watch because you're kind of a fun guy. So the two of us started that. The goal was to make it 50,000 followers. Now it's like 115,000 followers. It's amazing. It makes us laugh. So if you watch at Rocco Golf, the videos are him, the captions are me, and then he goes in and talks to all the commenters. That's kind of the setup. I do all the posting. I kind of guide it and tell them what we need and where we're going to go. But that's kind of the Rocco and Johnny channel. But Dick's Open was awesome because I could go and, Bernhard Langer was there, Ernie Els was there, Rocco was there, Lee Trevino showed up. Like it was an amazing week. And the fun thing is that Rocco and I don't get a lot of opportunities to hang out on site. Whenever I go to Arizona, I go stay with him and his family. We're very, very close, talk to him every day. But ultimately, like we don't get the chance to like hang out on site all week. And his caddy, Brent Nannis, is a good buddy of mine. So we had a blast. I mean, we had an absolute blast. I got there on Tuesday, stayed all the way through Sunday. And, if you go to his Instagram feed, that's us. That's us doing our thing. I mean, one of the posts that he put up did like 2 million views or something like that, which is hilarious. But, we're kind of kindred spirits, Rocco and I. We're both sober men. We're both kind of insane people. The way that we move around the world and our worldview is very similar. So we get along like peas and carrots. We've been friends for like 7 or 8 years and we have a blast. But one of the cool things that Rocco did, and you guys can go to the pictures to see this, is what's in the bag. I just posted it. This guy has a set of Ping i240s. So Rocco, when he came out on tour, was a Ping player. And then he was a Titleist player. He used to play the DCIs. But every iron that he's had has always had a tremendous amount of offset. So if you remember his Callaway days, he played all the X products like X12, X14, X18, X22. He liked the game improvement with offset irons, kind of like Annika Sorensen was the other person that continuously played that platform. So he was a big i210 player, and the reason he liked i210 over like the i230s is because it had offset. So what he got this set of i240s and asked Ping Tour and said, hey, look, can you crank up the offset on these things without changing the lofts of these irons? Typically, when you bend offset into an iron, you have to strengthen the lofts. He didn't want that because he still plays traditional lofts. And when I mean traditional, I mean 48 degree pitching wedge, 44 degree 9 iron, 40 degree 8 iron, 36, 32, go on and on and on all the way down to 3 iron. The guy still plays a 21 degree 3 iron. And if you look at the carry yardages on his irons, like 3 iron for him, full tilt's like 200 yards, and like, 190 in the 4 iron, 180 in the 5 iron, 170. He just goes down the line. And he's been playing the same yardages forever, for like 100 years, because he's 120 years old. But he asked them to bend offset into these irons. And they are the best looking Ping iron I've ever seen. And if you look at the pictures, you're going to see a burn mark. They had to torch the hosel of these things to get it so hot to literally pull the hosel back from the face. So they put it in a vise and then they start cranking on it, and they pulled about I want to call it like a shaft and a half worth of offset into these Ping I-240s. So they literally have Ping I-2 offset in a Ping I-240 iron. And they are the coolest looking, I love offset. So they are the coolest looking irons I've ever seen. And on top of that, he has the guy in the grind shop at Ping round out the leading edge just to take the sharpness out of the leading edge. So that it's the most one-of-one set of pings you'll ever see. And he plays precision rifle 7.0s. He's 62 years old, so his irons are stiff. They're all D1. They're traditional lofts. They have Ping I-2 offset. They are the coolest looking irons I have ever seen. So what I told Rocco, I'm like, and he stripes them. He stripes them. He hits them so well. And he's very excited about them. So to Brad Millard, the person, the mastermind behind this whole project, you got to remember, if Rocco calls and says, "Can you bend, offset 3 through 9 iron into my irons?" He's not Tiger Woods, so they're like, are we really doing this for this guy? Is this really happening? So they did it for him. So he owes them all a huge, like $2,000 meal, because that's like 10 hours worth of work to get this set done. I mean, it's a project. So if an order like that comes into, most OEMs are like, no, dude, we'll do it for Tiger. We're not doing it for Rocco. Ping loves Rocco. They did it for Rocco, and these irons are on fire. I wish they actually released a set of Ping I-240s, because I would buy them tomorrow. I'd buy them tomorrow. They're that cool. But it was fun. Like, I had an interesting interaction with Bernhard Langer on the range this week. So he's a Tour Edge ambassador, and they have a great rep out there. Really, really nice guy. And he was working, and he was trying some drivers and trying some new prototype irons. And Bernhard's like everybody else. He's trying to get better. He's won everything on the Champions Tour. He's the greatest Champions Tour player that's ever lived. But he's on the foresight, and he's out there practicing. And I walk up and introduce myself just to take pictures of his clubs. And he goes, he kind of said to me, he's like, you were with Callaway before. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I've seen you around. And we start talking, and I said, so what are you working on? He's like, well, I'm trying to hit it higher, because all these guys that I'm playing with hit it straight up in the air, and the ball comes down and the ball stops in the green. And I'm having a hard time stopping the ball in the greens, hitting it high enough so it comes down steep enough to do this. And, he is so old school that, his irons, for example, he plays like a 22 or 23 degree 4-iron, for example, but it's not a game improvement iron. It's basically a mimic of the old Hogan Apex blade that he used to play in his 4-iron. So his set used to be crazy. He had I think it was four and 6-iron were like these blades. His 5-iron was like a cavity back. 7, 8, 9 were like some Adams pieces. His pitching wedge was like an artist. I mean, he had a crazy set. You'd have to go back to WRX for the picks. I actually wrote an article for WRX on his set. And then he's got these 2 Adams Idea hybrids that have been in the bag for almost 20 years. The original ones that they built for him. But we're going back and forth, and we're talking about the hybrids, like what he likes about them, and how he's taking care of them, because they look brand new. But it's Bernhard Langer. He hits everything out of the middle. But we start talking about getting the ball up in the air. And, he goes to me, he's like, what would you do to help me get the ball in the air? So I said, hit a couple of 4-irons for me. And they had a couple of different options. Tour Edge has a new set of cavity backs that he was testing. And they had put some weight on the bottom. And his whole thing is he wants it to just launch higher, but he wants the spin to stay the same. So I said, well, there's a couple of different ways to do this. I'm like, essentially what you need, though, you're losing height because you don't have the speed to get it up in the air. So it's not necessarily a loft thing. It's a technology thing. And I was like, what you need to do is you're trying to get more out of your bladey 4-iron. You're not going to achieve the result that you're looking for by just using the iron you have. You could add loft, but it's going to add spin, and the ball's not going to go as far. Like, you need modern technology. So I'm like, you need to be looking at like, TaylorMade 770 or Strixon ZX5 or something in that ballpark to help you get the ball in the air. So he goes, yeah, but if I hit it higher, is it going to spin more? And I'm like, so then I had to explain CG to him. I'm like, no, because if you lower the CG in modern irons, the lower the CG, what you can do is you can start to take loft off. So if your 4-iron's 23 degrees, now we can give you a 21 degree 4-iron, for argument's sake. That's going to launch higher than what you have, than your 23 degree 4-iron that you have. The spin's going to come down a little bit, but it's going to be mitigated because the descent angle is going to be steeper. And you could see his brain was melting. He had no idea. Like, he's like, how does that work? And I started explaining CG. So we ended up sitting on the range for like 45 minutes. And I'm explaining face angles on drivers and all this stuff. And, it was kind of like a out of body experience moment for me because he's one of my heroes. And we had a blast. Like, and it was one of those things I wish cameras would have been on, but I was kind of happy they weren't because we could just go back and forth and talk. And he's asking me about offset and what that does to launch, and can he still do this, and can I have an iron that's like this with offset that I like, and turf interaction. Like, yeah, you can kind of have it all. And the funny thing is that I know reps have approached him a million times, and he's a pretty intimidating guy. He's very stoic. He's a German guy, so he's very like to the point. But it was fun having that interaction with him because you could tell that he was kind of married to old ideas. And, I'm sure reps have offered him help in that way. But in that moment with him and I, is he going to take any of my recommendations? Who the fuck knows? I have no idea. But like, it was fun. Like, and I had a blast talking to this guy for 45 minutes or an hour about equipment and sharing what I knew. And at the end of it, he's like, thank you for your time. Like, I really appreciate you kind of walking me through all this stuff. And I was like, of course, Bernhard Langer. Like, fuck, are you kidding me? Thank you for, listening to what I have to say. So that was I don't want to say the Rocco stuff wasn't the highlight week, but that, from an equipment standpoint, talking to Bernhard Langer for like a 45 minutes on the range was like the highlight of my week. That was like I'd put that on my resume. Like, talk to Bernhard Langer for 45 minutes on the range about center of gravity and peak height and stuff. Like, that was cool. The other thing that was really, really cool is something I learned, with the 3Ds of Titleist, and we're going to get to my bag in a second, was I kind of explained what Titleist does to him. I said, Titleist goes like with the 3Ds because he's a Titleist golf ball player. And I said, Titleist's goal with every club in the bag is to have the same peak height with every club. And you could tell that, he was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. I've never heard that before. And I was like, if your driver flies at 100 feet in the air, you want every club in your bag to do the same, because that peak height number represents a lot of quality metrics: ball speed, spin, all these things, north to south dispersion, are kind of all controlled if you can get the same peak height with every club. And you could tell that he was kind of like, oh, interesting. I'm going to start looking at that because he's got a quad. He knows how to use it. So you could tell, like, he took out his 4-iron and hit it and went like, I don't know, 95 feet in the air. And then he took his 5-iron, he hit it and it got like 93 feet in the air. And he kind of looked at me, he's like, oh, those are good. Those are close. And I'm like, yeah, but you're trying to look, we're trying to get you to like 105. So that's where technology would help you. And you could tell that he was starting to marry up what I was telling him about technology and how it can help you with that peak height number. And it was really, really cool to see because that's something that I had never thought about before. Now, granted, I think the 3Ds is brilliant. I would make some modifications to it for my own game, especially when you get out on tour, because I think the short irons, I would say peak height needs to be the same, say from driver to 7-iron. And then I would go probably lower as you get to the short iron. So mine would be more like a pyramid. It would kind of work that way. But nonetheless, it's still, for the normal golfer, it actually makes a shitload of sense. And it really works because I tried it. I had practical knowledge. I saw it firsthand, and it's a thing, and it's brilliant, and it's really awesome. But I think when you get to better players that really know how to control dynamic loft and stuff, those peak height numbers would probably come down as you got to the shorter irons. It's just me talking here, but that's the only modification I would make to the 3Ds. But the cool thing is that I kind of used what I learned and kind of offered it up to Bernhard Langer, and you could tell that it meant a lot to him. Like, that was something that he didn't know when he walked to the range on Wednesday, and he went to bed with new knowledge on Wednesday night. So that was cool. But overall, the week was amazing. Rocco played like dog crap the first 2 days and really turned it on. Probably should have shot 62 on Sunday. He balled out on Sunday. Couldn't make a putt from 5 feet, but he hit it about as good as you can hit it. And I have to say, the guy that won the tournament, I think Stephen Allen won it at like 19 under. Stephen Allen would have beaten 99.9% of the golfers in the world for 3 rounds at the Dick's Sporting Goods Open. Like 19 under for 3 days on that golf course is balling out. He's beaten everybody in the world. Maybe one player would have stepped up and shot 20 under. Maybe. And I'm talking about the big tour. I'm not talking about just champions. I'm talking about any player in the world. He's beaten 99.9% of the people in the world that week. He balled out. So congratulations to Stephen Allen. He was your winner Very, very impressive. But I got a chance to talk to David Duval, who I've met a couple times, and got some pictures of his bag. And I did ask him the question. I'm like, of all the irons that you've hit, like what have been the ones that you love the most? And of course, he said 962Bs. And I was like, do you still have them? He's like, yes, I have 2 or 3 sets at my house. They're in storage, but I kept all my old clubs. I'm like, do you still have like your S2 H2 wood? He's like, yeah, I got it all. I kept all the stuff from my heyday, like my 59 bag. I still have all the clubs. I have my DCI 2 and 3 iron and my 962B, 4-through pitching wedge, and I have my old trusty rusty wedges. I have them all. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, I got to get in your garage. Like, I could run a whole YouTube channel. I call it just David Duval's Garage, and just pick a club for each video. And I could run a 300 episode fucking channel on David Duval's. That's an idea. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make that happen. Okay, so let's get into this last topic, which is the what's in the bag conversation. Learned a lot in this process, and you guys are going to see the video. It's going to launch after this podcast comes out, but we will talk about it really in depth next week, and I'll probably bring on a guest. First thing I'll say, and I've said it on the show before, I had to put all the Callaway stuff to the side. So saying it again, I've said it before on this podcast. Purposely had to push their stuff to the side, and there was stuff in my Callaway bag of that Callaway equipment that I know are really good for me and that I hit well. For example, 7-through pitching wedge with my TCBs, married to those irons. I know that they're still there, and I love them. There is a 50-degree TCB A wedge married to it. Had to put it to the side. I love that thing. It goes 115 every single time, no matter where I hit on the face. It's the perfect gapping club. I love that club. I had to put it to the side. I did have to hold on to a 3-wood. I tried everything, but let me start with the golf ball first. We're gonna go driver. We're gonna go ball, driver, 3-wood, 5-wood, and hybrids. I'll kind of tease out. I'll just tell you what the fuck I did. Golf ball, I'm back in Pro V1X, coming from the Chrome Tour Dot. What did I gain from the new golf ball? And I think I mentioned this on the last podcast. It was a feel thing. Numbers wise, they were very, very similar. The Tour Dot for me flew a little bit lower, but I love the feel of the Pro V1X. And this is the trap that Titleist sets, is there's something about when you get around the greens. I don't know if it's the sound. They say sound is feel. I don't know what it is, how it sticks to the face, but around the greens, Titleist golf balls just have a feel. And the moment I started chipping around with that golf ball again, truth be told, in the air, spin wise, whatever, reactionary wise, they were very, very similar. But off the face, there's something about that old familiar feeling of a Titleist off the face that was just like, I got to go back to this thing. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's better. I don't know. Because I don't pick golf balls that way. Like, I don't pick golf balls on a TrackMan or a quad per se. I run the test to see, but to be honest, the numbers are always kind of like this. They're kind of apples to apples. Like, they're very, very similar. They're all fast off the driver. They all curve. Not all golf balls are created the same, though. I would say that the 2 golf balls that I have tested that are really awesome on off-speed shots are the Pro V1X and the Chrome Tour X and the Chrome Tour Dot, which are kind of similar. You take speed off of these golf balls and they're still spinning. They just are. Like, they're incredible that way. Specifically those 3. And I've tried other golf balls, and some of them are really good in that regards, but the best, and I hate using the word best, that I've tried, Pro V1X, Chrome Tour X, and Chrome Tour Dot, which they don't sell. Those 3 golf balls, when you take speed off, are fucking incredible. They're incredible. And for a guy like me that never hits short irons hard, I'm always hitting off-speed shots, 8-through lobber. That's where I make all my money. That's where I play my best golf, is when those are effective. I loved it. Pro V1X is the golf ball in the bag. You're going to see it in the video. That's the ball I landed on, and I love it. I'm very, very happy. Driver. GT2. And I can say, and I'm okay saying this, that of all the drivers that I hit, that driver won in every category. It was the most forgiving. It was the fastest. It was the best north to south. If I teed an inch off the ground, I hit bullets. If I tee it up, I hit no spin fucking nukes. I got the Ventus Red Velo Plus 6X. It's tipped an inch, 45 and a quarter. It's at D3. It feels amazing. I've hit some amazing drives with that thing. I time it up. I hit it out of the guts. It's, of all the drivers I've hit in the last 5 years, the two best drivers that I've hit in the last 5 years, there's three of them. The first Epic Speed Triple Diamond that Kellen Watson ever built for me on the truck that I still have. Paradigm Triple Diamond was amazing. And this GT2 are the three best drivers I've hit hands down in the last 5 years. This GT2 is amazing driver. It's amazing. I can't say enough good things about this thing. And it kind of gives me a pit and like that sick feeling because I'm, it's not a Callaway driver. I hit some fun TaylorMade stuff. Really like the Ping G440. It didn't match up ball speed wise. It did all the things that the GT2 did, but the GT2 was 3 miles an hour faster with everything else being equal. So ultimately, like, this driver just won. And I hit, you guys saw the pictures on my Instagram about all the stuff that I hit. You saw those drivers lined up in my hallway. I hit everything, and I was swapping shafts, and I was doing. I did the test. I wish I had my studio belt. I would have done it live in the studio, but I did it. I golf course tested a lot of these things, but GT2 was amazing. And the final test was at the Live Golf Pro-Am at Merido, and I drove the piss out of it for 18 holes. And I just knew. I was like, this is the driver. And I was hitting low shots, high shots, draws, fades. I mean, fucking whatever. I hit it. GT2. Incredible driver. Why did I go into the Ventus Red? So I tried it in black. Black was okay. I tried it in Diamante whiteboard and blue board. Really solid. But when I put this Ventus Red in there, and I'm getting more trying to force myself to stay on top of it, to kind of cover it, because at my age, that's how I'm going to start to control the face a little bit better, because you guys see my golf swing, I pop out of it like crazy. So I'm forcing myself to play with more loft, to do things to keep me into the shot. And a lot of the drives I'm hitting now are with it teed down a lot lower than I normally play it. And I'm hitting some absolute missiles with control, with spin, hitting a lot of fairways. And that combo just, again, I see shafts as a timing mechanism. That combo, I hit it out of the guts 9 times out of 10. And I can hit north-south shots all day long. So that was the driver. 3-wood is where I got a little bit funny. Again, I apologize if I kind of already covered this previously, but maybe not in as much detail. I hit a lot of 3-woods. I hit the Elite stuff. I tried the Ping 3-wood, the LST. I liked it. Spun it too much. It was good 3-wood. Got up in the air really easily. Really solid. Tried the PXG 3-wood. PXG 3-wood is actually really, really good. The thing I had a problem with the PXG 3-wood is it looks upright to me. It looks like I'm going to hit it 100 yards left. I couldn't get used to the way it looked. It didn't sit on the ground right for me. But the numbers were really good on it. And I hit it on the golf course in a round and I hit it really good, but I just couldn't get used to the way it looked. I just felt like I was making too many adjustments to make it go where I wanted it to go. Hit the TaylorMade QI35 3-wood, ball speed machine, liked it, but I didn't love the miss. So the miss on it for me was spinny right constantly, which is a good miss, but I didn't have the level of consistency that I wanted. Tried the mini drivers, tried the Callaway mini driver, tried the TaylorMade R7 mini driver, loved it in certain situations, but I again couldn't get comfortable. And what I found was if I didn't hit it out of the guts, if I mishit it a little bit, the ball speed would dip way down. So like for me, with a 3-wood, like just in stasis, it's like 155-ish maybe. And if I gas it, I can get in the high 150s. Where I could get to 162, 163 with a mini driver, believe it or not, which is really close to my driver if I really got it. But if I mishit it, it would go down to like 151. But I have a Callaway 3-wood, which is an AI Smoke Triple Diamond T. I think I mentioned this on the show last week, that I can hit all over the face and it's still hot. And if I hit it out of the top, I get these knucklers. If I hit it skinny, I still get ball speed and it spins and I can turn it over and I can get it out of rough. And it's just it's an unbelievable 3-wood. So that's the one Callaway 3-wood that survived. And again, it's got a Ventus Red 7X shaft in it. I hit this 3-wood really, really good. So that made it QI35 5-wood, which was, I think I said before, hands down the best 5-wood I've hit by far of everything that I hit. I again hit a ton of 5-woods. Nothing touched this thing. Like, not even close. And I think I talked a little about, it's got a Ventus Black 8X in it. Why did I go to black? Because that one wants to launch really high with spin. The only shaft I could put into it that kept it in a normal, manageable spin window was the black. And then I go Ping G434 hybrid. I actually have a Ping G445 hybrid that I'm messing around with that still might land in the bag. So that's questionable. And then the iron set, I'll tease it out to you. I actually went with the Titleist irons. So I have T250 5 and 6 iron, and then 7-through pitching wedge in the new T100, which have been amazing. Made a shaft switch into the Nippon 120Ss. It's a lower launching, higher spinning shaft. Really, really like it. All my irons are like a degree or 2 degrees weak. And that's it. But you're going to see the whole video that launches next week, and you'll get the gist of it. But the reason I'm kind of sharing this again is I kind of want to go through the rest of the stuff that I hit so you can kind of get some context on why I landed on what I landed on. Really liked the ZXi7. Loved them. The reason the reason they didn't go in the bag, honestly, is they were a little hot for me from where for me, like the way that my gapping works is like 7-iron goes 170, 8-irons 155. I go in 15-yard gaps. And what I found is with ZX7, maybe this is how I had them set up, but I was getting like 178, 179 out of the 7-iron. And then I get to 8-iron, I'm hitting a 163. And what it did is it left a really weird gap between 9-iron pitching wedge and my other gap wedge. It was like a 20-yard gap. And the problem is that to get to the proper gaps, I'm either having to strengthen lofts or take loft off. And with that V-sole, there's a lot of bounce on that thing. And what I found is that it was affecting the strike, and I wasn't getting the right part of the face on the ball as I was starting to tweak the lofts. So when I went to T100, it allowed me to actually bend them a little bit weak to get the gapping proper, and the bounce wasn't affected as much. The only other set that I could make that happen was TCB, but I had to put those in the garage because I had to try something else. I tried Mizuno's. The 243 were another contender. Blueprint S were a contender. Tried the PXG 0317s, also a contender. Really, really good. But I have to look at the whole set in general. And consistently, if I'm talking just about 7-through pitching wedge, the T100s kind of answered every question that I was looking for. The only adjustment I would make probably the T100s, if you look at them, they have kind of a rounded leading edge. If I had my druthers, I'd probably square that off just for an optics thing. But they're amazing irons. Like Titleist knocked it out of the park with this whole launch. Very, very impressed with what they've done iron wise in this T series launch. Like I can't say enough good things. And obviously I had a great fitter at TPI and Lucas Bro, so he had me dialed in, and we made some tweaks as we went. But ultimately, we landed on a great set. And this is what I'm gonna be playing with, until something new comes out. But for now, like that's the set I'm kind of riding with. I'll tell you what the wedges are later. You'll hear in the video what I ended up with the putter, in the bag, and the rest of the shit that's in the bag. But I'm really happy with where the bag sits right now. I just am. So how does this translate to the consumer? I'm going to end it with this. When you see guys like myself or Ian Frazier, and anybody else that's in the gear space that's got, okay, this is my what's in the bag and blah blah blah. We're just golfers like you are. And truth be told, my game is in decline right now because of lack of play, lack of practice. So before, if you would have saw me 4 or 5 years ago, or when I started at Callaway, I'm looking at, I want the stuff. I want the tour issue stuff. I want the stuff that Xander and Rom plays. And, and I had access to all this stuff. I could pull a drawer open and build whatever I wanted. The fun thing about getting into this golf.com job is, I can start looking at it in a more practical sense. Like I have access to all these levers I can pull, and I can still get all the tour issue stuff. I still have access to all that crap. But now it's like critical mass. Like my golf game's going backwards. Like my golf swing's out of sorts. I got a bad shoulder. And for the first time in my career, I'm looking at I want a golf bag that's going to actually help me shoot lower scores. And I've done it in the past at Callaway, and I had some experiments that I did that really, really helped. But this new journey that I'm on, I want to see if I can actually get better and be able to utilize the market and look at it through the optics of what you guys would be looking at it through. Like when I'm going to a store, if my miss is this, what's the golf club that's going to help me, or what's the setup that's going to help me get back to square to help me get the bag in a good spot? And that's what's been fun about this journey as I'm building out my bags. That's why you're seeing hybrids in like 4-iron and 5-iron slots. That's why you're seeing me pick shafts as opposed to going to the low launch, low spin things, trying to hit these nukes. Like, what's the driver that's going to help me hit fairways and be efficient? Like, what's the 3-wood? It'd be awesome to have a mini driver, but is it practical for me? And if it's not practical for me, why is it not practical? And maybe you're asking yourself the same questions. Like, I can share my experience and go, yeah, dude, I loved it off the tee and I could gas this thing. But if I mishit it, like, it was unruly. Those are things to consider when you guys are going out and buying golf clubs. And, going forward, you're going to see a lot of that from me. Like, it's this exploration of my own bag. And as it relates to you guys are out there coming to me for advice on what to buy and why to buy it, or what to try and why to try it. I think going through the optics of my own game, I think is actually going to help you guys, because I'm just a normal Joe. I'm a guy that wants to be a better player like you guys are. My game at 48 with 2 kids and limited time, like I'm trying to build that cheat code bag that's going to help me go out and actually play to my handicap at every venue I go to. Because right now, like my handicap's like a 0.8. I can play to it 2 out of 10 times, but the last 4 or 5 rounds I've played, like I'm struggling to break 80. But the problem is I'll go out, if I play 3 times, I might shoot 71 on a tough golf course because I got all my shit together that day. But I want to play my best golf of my life in my 50s. At 48, I have a year and a half to come up with a system that really, really works. And I'm going to share it. I'm going to share that with you guys as I go. And that's going to be swing. That's going to be fitness. That's going to be thinking. That's going to be everything. Because right now, I am a has-been golf-wise. Like, I don't have the superpowers that I did. Can I get them back? 100%. But I have to rethink this whole thing. And a lot of it's going to come down to equipment. A lot of it's going to be the approach to like taking ownership over my golf swing and what I do well, battling a lot of bad habits that I have. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys as I go. But like when you see the what's in the bag, that is a guy trying to figure it out. That's not like, well, I got this because I'm longer and I'm doing this. Like, no, like this is just me struggling, trying to build a bag that's going to help me. So everything in that golf bag that you see there are the ones that I know I can go out and play decent golf with. And that hopefully will help me level up and get the game back to where I want it to go. Because I'll be super honest with you guys. Like when I've been approached, I've been asked to be in YouTube videos and do 1v1 versus this. Like I'm scared shitless to do that right now. Like I don't have the game. Like somebody asked me, I've asked this a bunch of times, like, like you and Trotty should go do a 1v1. He would kill me right now. I want no part of that guy. Even Ian Frazier. Like, and I've played golf with Ian Frazier and I've had rounds where I've beat Ian Frazier. But like his golf game's in a way better spot than mine is. My golf game has declined. It's a mess right now. So like I want to be able to have the confidence to go back out on the course. And if someone goes, you're going to go play 1v1 against these players, I'm like, yeah, fuck it. Bring it on. Let's go. 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, you asked me that question, like send me out there, I'll play whatever. I'll go against anybody. I'm not scared of anybody. Except this is a fucking tour player or something like that. But I would say about maybe at the end of 2023 is when the game really started to decline. I stopped playing as much, wasn't hitting a lot of golf balls, in equipment flux because I was in the middle of like trying all this new Callaway stuff. And I just wasn't paying attention to the things that you need to pay attention to get better. And I'd say the last 2 years golf-wise, if I've played 40 times in 2 years, I've probably had 6, 7 good rounds. I'd say I hit it good today. The other 33 rounds were trash. And I've had a lot of 81s, 82s in there. I've had a bunch of 73, 74s in there. But I've had some high scores. Like I've had some days where it's like I played 16 good holes and had like 2 bad holes. I remember a day I went out to the farms like shit, like I don't know, 6, 9 months ago and went out and played. I swear to God, if I would have been keeping score for 18 holes, I probably would have shot 90. Like it was that bad. Like, it was terrible. I was hitting all over the place. But then the hard part with me is the next day I'll go out and play the same golf course and shoot 75. So I don't want that anymore in my life. I want to be able to qualify for a US, senior mid-am. I want to start playing in these things. I have the talent level to do it. I just got to rebuild, and I'm going to do that through golf equipment. I'm going to take you guys along this journey. I know you guys can relate. I know there's a lot of fathers out there that are busy, that have bills to pay and stress and families to maintain and all this stuff. I'm going to try and crack the code on how to do this. I'm going to take you guys with me, and hopefully together we can come up with some fun solutions on how to crack this code. And hopefully in my 50s, I'm playing my best golf and I can inspire you guys to do the same. So this podcast may have been a regurgitation of some of the things I said last week, but it's kind of fun therapeutically to have this conversation with you guys. This is where I'm at. My golf game sucks. I'm trying to fix it. If you guys watch, the Titleist videos and the Callaway videos that I put out, those are tough scenes. I was hitting terrible those days. Terrible. But speaks to the level of equipment that I was in, because the equipment was making me look really good, but I was hitting it like bottom groove like 80% of the time. And I'm excited as I go forward to get into those videos and really start hitting it well again. So anyway, that is fully equipped for today. I hope you guys enjoy the Johnny Wunder only version of this podcast. We're going to be making some adjustments to the gear platform as we go, but fully equipped for the most part. Is going to be me. We have some fun stuff coming in the next 30 days, some fun announcements that you guys are really going to get jacked up on that'll affect this podcast. And potentially, like I've said before, there might be another podcast that I start that's kind of tour centric and talking to players and interview platform. But we're getting to that slowly but surely. But the fun part is since coming to golf.com, the growth is there. Like, we're really starting to see it in social media. We're really starting to see the YouTube channel starting to grow, the fully equipped channel starting to grow. Like, we're having some fun. It's working. So I appreciate you guys following along on this journey. But my goal is to make this the best gear platform in the world, bar none. And I think some of the changes that we're making in the next 30 days, you're going to see it. We will be the all-star team. And we're going to have a incredible 2026. I cannot wait. So that's it. Fully equipped, episode 294. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any questions, shoot me an Instagram DM. Happy to answer it. But that is Johnny Wunder. That is fully equipped.